Hey, what's up folks? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic week. Today, we're going to learn all about the great Samuel Whitmore. So now, after watching so many, war documentaries over the years, Samuel Whitmore has definitely popped up quite a few times. I know he's a very, very beloved figure as far as American history is concerned. My knowledge of him is limited to simply knowing that he was one of the oldest, if not the oldest, combatant during the American Revolutionary War. So I know he's a true hero indeed. But outside of that, I would love the finer details to be filled in regarding his life. And that's why I thought this would be an amazing video. And we have none other than the Fat Electrician to tell us this story. And if you know my videos, you know that I think the most of the Fat Electrician. I think he's the best storyteller on YouTube. I cannot wait for this one, folks. Get your popcorn because we're going to learn all about a true American hero. Let's go.
Ah, yes, the official state hero of Massachusetts.
Let's go, baby. Samuel Whitmore.
Samuel Whitmore, quite possibly America's first anti-hero and the most gangster old man of all time. All right, Samuel Whitmore, we don't know much, but here's what we do know. He was born in Charlestown, Massachusetts in 1696. From there, he goes dark. We don't hear from him until 1721 when he gets married to his wife, Elizabeth Spring. Then he goes dark again. There's nothing of him in the historical record until 1744. At the age of 48 years old, he would fight in King George's War. And during that war, he held the rank of captain, leading an entire platoon of dragoons during the siege of Louisburg. If you don't know, dragoon is just a fancy word for cavalry, so think of like Malfoy's dad from the Patriot, same thing.
So that's quite interesting. So, I mean, he fought in the American Revolutionary War, which was, in the 1770s. So, man, if he was already 48 by the 1740s, just shows how old he was come the American Revolutionary War. Just shows, man, hey, if you're brave enough, you're old enough, I guess, eh?
So that's cool, whatever, but here's the important part that nobody else ever brings up. Like I said, he's a captain, which is a way bigger deal than most people make it out to be, and here's why. There's really only two ways that you can become an officer in the British military at this point in time. Way number one, you were born into a wealthy British aristocratic family, and daddy's got a lot of money. That's like 95% of the British officers at this point in time. Or way number two, and way less likely, you are a complete badass doing gangster shit on the regular and they absolutely need you to lead some men.
Guessing
Given the
that's
fact
Samuel?
that Samuel's just some random colonial that was born in Massachusetts, it kind of narrows down which category he fell into.
Yep.
So he and his men help lay siege to Fort Louisburg. That goes well. They take over the fort. From there, the war is over, so he heads back home to what is now Arlington, Massachusetts. From there, he goes back to doing seemingly the only other thing he's good at, because I'm not kidding you, this guy does two things his entire life. He plows stuff and he fights wars. When he's not fighting wars, he's back at home plowing his fields and plowing his wife, because this dude has 10 kids. I am not kidding you. There was only two things on the historical record that even proved that this man existed for the next 10 years. One is the sheer amount of birth certificates where he is listed as the father. I mean, the mother is always his wife. He's not cheating on his wife. It's just they're having a bunch of kids. And second, and my most favorite detail of this entire story, when he came back from war, he had a very, very decorative, ornate, almost gaudy French officer's sword covered in gold and rhinestones and jewels and all kinds of shit. And it became his prized possession that he would show off to all of his buddies in town. And when they would ask him where on earth he got that, the only thing he would say is, and I quote, "The previous owner died suddenly.
I wonder how.
I acquired it." All right, so fast forward 10 years. It is now 1754, and Attila the Whitmore over here is approximately 58 years old, and the French and Indian War breaks out. Now, does Sam have to go fight this war? Absolutely not. He is a 58-year-old man in the 1700s when the life expectancy is 60. He should be keeling over any minute now, but he also has 10 kids, so he's literally like, honey, I gotta go beat up the French again. Okay, bye.
Can you imagine that? 58, getting involved in another war.
If you don't know, the French and Indian War is basically the Kingdom of France versus the British Empire, and both sides are backed by different Native American tribes. This is supposedly the war that Mel Gibson's character fought in The Patriot, and presumably where he got his cool tomahawk from. Now, I know what you're thinking. Did Sam Whitmore get a cool tomahawk too? No, he didn't. But what he did get was two matching dueling pistols that were super cool. And you're never going to believe this, but the previous owner died suddenly. Okay, look,
I
it's
wonder
not
how.
stealing if they don't exist anymore. That's just the rules, I guess. So Sam and his men beat up on the French yet again. He acquires some fancy dueling pistols, and then he heads back home. Okay, fast forward again. It is now 1763, and Sam Whitmore is 67 years old, and the Pontiac Rebellion breaks out. Surely he's going to sit this one out, right? Absolutely not. He grabs his French sword, he grabs his double dueling pistols, his musket, and he heads off to war yet again. So he goes, he fights in that.
Half of the equipment he has are things that he acquired during other wars. That is gangster.
War for a little bit, comes back home, at which point he decides that he's going to get involved in politics. So somewhere along the line, he starts rolling around in the political circles. He finds himself at a fancy dinner party, and there's this guy there that's running for House of Representatives, and his name is John Vassell, and he represents everything that Sam hates. Sam is a small town farmer that's just trying to plant his crops and bang his wife, and this guy is like the big powerful merchant out of Boston, the big city, running the ports, making all this money. He wants to get into office to make laws more beneficial to him so he can be rich, and Sam is just trying to get by. So at this dinner party, Sam, who's not scared of anybody, informs him, hey, by the way, you're no better suited for office than the horse I rode in on. By the way, my horse's name is Nero. He's parked out front, and he's not worth 5 pounds, which I'm not an expert in translating old-timey colonial speak, but it sounds like he's saying you're not worth a horse's ass. Go fuck yourself. At which point, John Vassell gets very upset and decides that he is going to sue Sam for public defamation for the price of 1,000 pounds, which...
Man, how long ago did public defamation lawsuits start? This is back in the 1700s, and this was still going on. That is crazy. How far could public defamation go in those days? You know, by word of mouth? Anyway...
is a shit ton of money back then. So the entire town finds out about this lawsuit, and they all show up to court to actually watch the trial because Sam represents that grizzled old man that's just saying what's on everybody's mind, but nobody else has the balls to say. And he goes in and basically turns this entire trial into the roast of John Vassell, ends up winning. Sam doesn't get sued, at which point he slaps him with a counter lawsuit on the spot and ends up countersuing him for $200 and wins.
Yeah.
So that kind of launches Sam's political career. Fast forward again. It is
So
now
he's
1765,
69?
and the British Empire has been fighting France for quite a while, and it's getting expensive. They need to make more money, and the best thing they can come up with is a Stamp Act. Basically, they're going to charge the colonials a tax on every single printed piece of paper that they come up with. This is like the modern day equivalent of if every time you made a phone call, sent a text, or visited a website, you had to pay a tax for it. And people are absolutely outraged, and Sam is infuriated. I mean,
it was these like little laws that the British Empire were enforcing, trying to get as much money from, you know, the British colonists here in what is today known as the United States, that really started to cause a tension between the two sides, I believe.
From his point of view, he's been fighting the French for the British Empire, and now he's going to have to pay an extra tax just for doing it. He's so mad that he ends up becoming a hardcore revolutionary. But he's also like a 70-year-old man, so he's mostly just serving on committees being like, hey, maybe America should be its own country. We shouldn't pay so much in taxes, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward again. It is now 1773. Samuel Whitmore is a 75-year-old man, and the British government has just rolled out their new and improved strategy for making even more money, the Tea Act. They're going to start taxing the importation of tea, which will go down in history as one of the greatest ideas of all time. Now, at this point, Sam is serving on a committee representing his hometown of Cambridge, which would later become known as Arlington, and that committee sends a response to the British government in regards to the Tea Act that basically says, fine, if you're going to charge us more money, we're just not going to buy your tea because, and I quote, if we fail to assert our rights, we will dwindle into supineness. Now, like I said earlier, not an expert in translating old-timey colonial talk, but it sounds like Sam and his committee just told the British government that we're not going to buy your metric leaf water because we're not going to let you guys fuck us. That's why. At this point, pretty much everybody in America
Good translation.
They start smuggling tea to avoid taxes. The Boston Tea Party happens December 1773. From there, people just start stockpiling guns and gunpowder and supplies, getting ready for war if one should break out. Now, fast forward April 1775, General Thomas Gage is appointed the military governor of Massachusetts, and he will be residing in Boston, which has been turned into a British military stronghold. At that point, General Gage decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to get proactive. I'm going to stomp out this whole rebellion talk right here and right now. I'm going to take 700 men, an entire regiment, and I'm gonna march them out to Lexington and Concord. While they're in Lexington, they're gonna arrest those stupid, annoying revolutionaries, John Hancock and Samuel Adams, and then they're gonna continue marching to Concord, where they're gonna burn down all the stocked up military supplies. So the British military starts making preparations for a huge movement, at which point revolutionary spies find out and they decide to let everybody know. And when I say they decide to let everybody know, I mean a silversmith from Boston by the name of Paul Revere is going to take off at midnight, ride through the entire countryside, going house to house, telling everybody that the British are coming. And guess whose house is between Boston and Lexington? Sam motherfucking Whitmore, that's who. I'm not shitting you. It is like 99% sure that Paul Revere showed up at 78-year-old Samuel Whitmore's house sometime in the middle of the night and was like, hey, just letting you know, the British are coming. At which point he's like,
get off my lawn.
Then presumably Paul Revere's like, okay, whatever, I gotta go warn everybody else, and Samuel goes back to bed. That morning, April 19th, 1775, the British are marching and they're almost to Lexington, and they are cut off by 77 Minutemen, led by a man by the name of John Parker. John Parker orders the Minutemen to, quote, stand your ground, don't fire unless fired upon, but if they mean to have war, let it begin here. So the British...
Is this where the shot around the shot heard around the whole world was first originated? Is this where it happened?
British roll up with 700 trained professional soldiers and tell these 77 Minutemen, literally farmers that just picked up whatever guns they had around, and told them, disperse you rebel scum. At which point the Minutemen are like, nah, we're good. We're gonna stay right here, and so are you. And that's exactly what happens. They just stand there staring at each other from across this field, with the British officer not knowing what to do, because he has to get to Concord to get rid of these supplies, because those were his orders, but he also doesn't want to open fire on these guys, because that will mean the start of the Revolutionary War. So they just stood there, seemingly forever, in formation, ready to throw down, waiting for the other guy to make the first move, and suddenly from the American side, a gun goes off. Yep. Nobody knows who fired, nobody knows why, but this was the shot heard around the world that would start the American Revolution. And for all we know, it could have been some old farmer that just dropped his gun. From there, all hell breaks loose. Both sides fire on each other. 8 American Minutemen are killed, and the British advance towards Concord. The surviving Minutemen take off to go tell everybody that the Revolutionary War has officially begun, as the British spend the next 4 hours searching through Concord, gathering all the military supplies and lighting them on fire. Everybody in the surrounding area sees all the smoke from the burning supplies, and they think that the British military is burning down the entire town of Concord. Because of that, 2,000 Minutemen show up to fight back, at which point the British are like, oh shit, and they start retreating. They run across a bridge and start ripping the planks off of it as they go, at which point the 2,000 Minutemen and 700 British soldiers fire upon one another from either side of this bridge as the British continue to retreat. The British now have to march 18 miles back to their military stronghold in Boston in their stupid high-vis Redcoats, and every single American with a gun between there and Boston is taking pop shots at them from the wood line. During this retreat,
this must be where the British Empire realized these guys mean business. This is not going to be as easy as we thought. These guys are resilient, determined, and they are not to be underestimated. Unbelievable.
26 Redcoats go missing, 175 are wounded, and 73 are killed, and 3 of them at least are from Samuel Whitmore. So we cut back to Samuel Whitmore. He's 78 years old, chilling at home, presumably plowing something. What? We don't really know. And he just hears gunfire going off in the background, and it's getting closer and closer. And then he remembers, oh, that fucking kid woke me up last night in midnight, told me the British were coming. Maybe that's what's going on. So he goes, he grabs his fancy French officer's sword, both of his dueling pistols, and his musket, and he goes out to the main road that the British would be marching past, and he's gonna stand by the stone wall next to the main road and just wait for the fight to come to him like the complete badass that he is. At this point, all the younger Minutemen are running up to check on this old man like, hey, what are you doing? You shouldn't be out here, and if you are going to try to do this kind of stuff, at least go out in the wood line or in like a second-story window to hide yourself like the rest of us so you don't get yourself killed. To which Samuel Whitmore responds, and I quote, if I can only be the instrument for killing one of my country's foes, I shall die in peace, which I think we can all agree is gangster as fuck. At this point,
guys, can you imagine that? That is a true patriot right there. That is someone that puts his land and his people above his own life. And that was seemingly the morals that most of these, founding fathers or, original Americans had, these British colonists during this time. And that is why, older folk in the United States are so proud of their country, because they understand, the shoulders of giants upon which society today is built on, how important those people were. And Samuel Whitmore is definitely one of those folks that we should, revere and tell this current generation about. This current generation has to learn about all these great Americans that existed in the past, because you definitely don't get that sense of national pride, and not just in America, but all over the world. Even in South Africa, kids today, they don't have that same sort of pride regarding history or whatever than, some of the older folks have. People talk bad about their country, and it seems to be a global trend today where people bash their country, and it's important to, really show this younger generations the history. So yeah, I love this story so far.
This man is literally the living embodiment of old man strength. He's just that old, grizzled, veteran Viking that's got one more fight left in him and wants to die in battle so he can go to Valhalla. So he stays there, he loads his musket, he loads his pistols, and he waits. And he waits, and finally the British come marching right down the road, dead at him. As they get close, he crouches down behind the stone wall with his musket and waits until they get to point blank range, and that's when he pops up over the wall, aims his gun,
I said get off my lawn now,
and fires, immediately killing one redcoat on the spot, drawing both of his pistols, killing two more redcoats, drawing his sword, and charging into over 500 soldiers on his own. He is then immediately shot in the face. He falls to the ground and is somehow still alive, so he reaches to grab one of his guns and start reloading it, at which point the British run up and stab him with bayonets somewhere between 6 and 13 times. Apparently, after the first 5, they all kind of blend together. He is then clubbed in the head with the butt of a rifle and left for dead, as his body...
Folks, shot in the face, stabbed multiple times. Oh my goodness, can you imagine running into what is almost certain death and being happy to do it? What a man. What an absolute hero.
Body lays there, mangled and lifeless, as the British continue to march through the town on their way to Boston. 4 hours later, the townspeople notice that his corpse starts moving. So they pick Samuel up, they get him over to the doctor, they alert the family shows up to the doctor, at which point the local town doctor, Nathaniel Tufts, is like, the dude is 78 years old. He wasn't prepared to handle a fall down the stairs, let alone getting stabbed 13 times and shot in the head. Okay, like there's no way this old man's gonna make it. But like I said, his family members start showing up, and guess how many direct descendants Samuel Whitmore has at this point in time after all that plowing? Go ahead, give it a guess.
12?
Say it in your head.
12.
Okay, you got your number? Okay, he's got 185 living descendants. Okay, he's got 5 generations beneath him. He's got kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, great-grandkids squared, and great-grandkids cubed.
Man.
185 people showing up to the doctor like, hey,
they get busy on that farm, folks.
Save grandpa. At this point, poor Dr. Tufts is like, dude's gonna die, but I'm not about to tell 180 grandkids that, so I'll try my best. So he does what he can. He bandages him up and sends him home with his family, and they take care of him for the remainder of his days. And when I say the remainder of his days, what I mean is, let me check my notes real quick.
20 years.
I mean that he passed on February 3rd, 1793. This motherfucker lived for 18 more years passed away at the age of 96. And to commemorate Samuel Whitmore, there's actually a monument where he made his last stand. Buh! You said that he was 78 during his last stand and 96 when he died, and that clearly says that he was 98 when he died and 80 during his last stand. Why are you so dumb? Buh! Okay, look, I understand your point, and I also can kind of sort of read, and I realize the irony because this is literally written in stone, and I'm telling you that it's wrong, but it is wrong. That is the only source that says that he was 98 when he died and 80 during his last stand. Every other source says that he was 78 and 96. This has been proven to be false multiple times, but they don't want to change it because the monument's already so old. So yes, I'm sticking with what I said. But the most...
Well, guys, think of this, regardless if whether it's 96 or 98, this man lived quite a long life after this incident. What a show of absolute strength and resilience. This might be the toughest man in history. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe that. And this is also during a time where, medical technology, I guess you can say, was not at an all-time high. As Fat Electrician referred to earlier, the average life expectancy was late 50s, possibly 60. This guy was part of so many integral moments in history at that point. He was involved in 3 separate wars, wounded, shot in the head, and still survived for another 20 years. Possibly one of my favorite heroes in war history. I'm not going to lie, Samuel Whitmore.
The important part of this picture is to actually zoom in on the house in the background. That's Samuel Whitmore's original house where he lived his entire life, and it's still around today as a historical site in Arlington, Massachusetts.
Wow.
And that monument is in the front yard. So if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, what I'm trying to tell you is, in conclusion, this has been the story of America's first and oldest gangster, a 78-year-old grizzled veteran that woke up on the first day of the American Revolutionary War and decided to casually go 3-0 while telling the entire British Empire to get off his lawn. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang, out. I've never been more excited for a future t-shirt design. I can see it now. America's original gangster, get off my lawn. Samuel Whitmore with 2 cross-dueling pistols and a sword.
Does make for a good t-shirt. Has he released that t-shirt yet? Let me know. But that looks like that is everything as far as this video is concerned. Just waiting till the very end. Yep, that is it. Samuel Whitmore, you absolute legend. Wherever you are right now, hopefully up in the sky, you are a true hero. My goodness. Folks, let me know, those from America that are viewing this channel, what does this story evoke in you as far as emotions are concerned? Does it ignite a patriotic feeling, a sense of pride in your country, knowing that individuals like this fought for your country's freedom? I'd definitely be interested to hear. For me, it gives me like a sense of pride. Even though I'm not American, I'm very proud of this American history. It really makes me happy to learn more and more. And this definitely won't be the last video I react to as far as the Fat Electrician is concerned. So those that have any recommendations, please send them through, because I am thoroughly enjoying his storytelling. But yeah, finally, just a salute to you, Samuel Whitmore, the original gangster. Folks, that is all I have for you today. If you did enjoy the video, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It is definitely much appreciated. But until next time, I hope you have a good one. I will see you when I see you. Cheers.